Today on CityCast Philly. It's Friday, everyone, which means we're rounding up the biggest news stories around Philly. We've got more details on the University of Arts closure and the events that unfolded this week. Where should the city put the intercity bus station? And the mystery behind Old City's cloud billboard. It's Friday, June 7th. I'm Trinina Marie, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week is Inga Saffron, architecture columnist at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Welcome back to the show, Inga.
Thanks, Trinae. It's nice to be here.
Yes. And Conrad Benner, founder of Streets Department, curator at Mural Arts, and host of WHYY's Art Outside podcast. Glad to see you again, Conrad.
Thanks for having me back. What a sad week. Sorry.
It's been a week.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a week in Philly.
Well, there you go.
Before we get into the news of the week, let's start off with an icebreaker question. The official start of summer is just 13 days away on June 20th. So I've got to ask y'all, what is something on your Philly summer bucket list?
Well, I keep a list of all these famous destinations. So Grounds for Sculpture near Trenton is on my list. Longwood Gardens, the Poe House. That's another one.
I like that. Conrad, what about for you?
It's so funny. I've actually never been to Grounds for Sculpture, and it is also on my bucket list. But you don't even have to go up there because the atelier that's right there is making the Roberto Lugo sculptures that'll be in Kensington this summer. So if you can't get up there yourself, some of the sculptures are coming here with Roberto Lugo's work that's coming to Kensington. So I'm excited for that.
That's exciting. Yeah. It's really easy to get to. You can take the train. You can bring your bike on the train, and it's a short bike ride.
It's so much closer than I thought. Yeah. Okay, my bucket list is real simple. I try to do it every year, and I want to say it happens about every fourth year. But my simple plan is always just to get 1 to 3 of my friends, whoever's available, do the whole 8-mile walk around Fairmount Park, and somewhere along the line, drink wine and get a little tipsy, and then do the rest of the walk with a little buzz in us, and then go get dinner. But there's just something about picking the day in summer that's not too sticky and doing that long walk and making it a day. You do nothing else that day but that,
I love that. That would be like the perfect Sunday, like any Sunday.
Absolutely. And you have great conversations, and you run out of all the normal stuff you talk about with your friends, and then you just start daydreaming about other things, and it ends up, the handful of times I've done it in my life, it's been some of the best days I remember.
I love that. That's a great idea. For me, I'm looking forward to neighborhood night markets so I can get some street corn.
Absolutely.
That's like my favorite for the summer. So I'll actually be at the Overbrook Night Market on Thursday, June 20th, to celebrate the summer solstice. If you see me, please say hi.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
That's great to know. Yeah.
All right, let's get into some of the news of the week. We've all been watching the events unfolding this week at the University of Arts. We talked about it on the show, about just the shock of it all, the communication or lack of communication of and around the closure of this university. As a reminder to folks that are just catching up, maybe, it's been a busy week. Last Friday, May 31st, UArts announced it would be suddenly closing today, June 7th. Now, according to the Inquirer, the school said they were under an urgent financial crisis and said it would have taken $40 million to save the school. So I kind of want to run down some of the things that I saw on social media, in the papers. On Monday, students and faculty started to demonstrate outside of the Hamilton Hall, and they've actually been demonstrating all week. I saw demonstrations from Eva Anderson. She's a TV reporter at CBS, and she went live this week, and she got to talk to some of the students, the faculty. They were making art outside, and it just was really compelling because people were pissed off. Anything stand out for y'all this week about this story?
I mean, 40 million is nothing. I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's nothing in terms of an emergency sort of fundraising campaign. They just raised 67 million only 2 years ago to repair all that fabulous real estate they own on Broad Street. Like, did they not know that things were going bad 2 years ago when they asked all these donors for money? It's just, the whole thing just strains credulity to me. I mean, if they are bankrupt, if they are in a death spiral, it just doesn't happen this quickly. There's definitely something else that we haven't been told.
Conrad, you've been tweeting about this week, and you got a lot of comments. What were some of your followers saying about it?
Yeah, I think, well, and I think if you zoom out, like it's been long expected that some smaller schools might have to close and this, that, or the other thing. But I think what Inga just said is absolutely true, which is like, it doesn't happen this quickly. And what I saw online was that shock, right? PAFA a few months ago announced that they were going to be ending some of their classes, their accreditation program, or
their degree program.
Their degree program, thank you.
Right. And that's the Pennsylvania Fine Arts.
Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, yeah. And they put a 1-year runway for that, right? So that gives students, teachers, people who are going to be directly affected by it time to sort of figure it out. So what I saw on social media was just the shock, the anger, the sadness, the confusion. There were TikToks out there by folks saying, I just gave them $500 for a deposit for this, that, or the other thing. Someone made a TikTok saying they woke up from a nap in their emergency student housing, realizing that with this news, they're not sure where their housing might come from. There are people who talked about, there was a woman who posted on TikTok that she actually left the University of Pittsburgh after her third semester, didn't go to school for a semester because UArts said that you needed to enroll only in the fall. That's how they do the school there. So she's now behind on school by over a year, and she's not sure where to apply. Another person mentioned that there's all these great schools who are offering to maybe waive application fees and accept some students, UArts and more. But who knows what credits will actually move over. And I'm sure the students are going to lose so much money in a move, even if they accept all the credits, but they're likely going to lose some credits as well.
Yeah.
Not to mention the faculty. I saw a tweet from a woman who said, I just bought a house. She's like, my second mortgage payment is next month, and I don't know where that's coming from. And I got a text this week from a friend who mentioned that she knows some of the staff are in Italy right now with students, and their credit cards were turned off. The credit cards they're supposed to be using during this trip. They're there for the school.
Yeah.
So what are we going to find out? It's only been a few days, really. And what are we going to find out? The dean leaving before the school even closed was bananas. I'm really heartened by the protests that are happening outside. Lots of signs talking about what is the Avenue of the Arts without these art schools. We're the mural capital of the world, and now we have one art school left. It's a huge loss for the city of Philadelphia. Losing a place like UArts that had at one point over 2,000 students a year. I don't know what that's going to do to the art scene here in Philadelphia, to the future of Philadelphia.
So on Tuesday, the University of Arts president, Carrie Walk, resigned. I think that one shocked me, and it was just like, things are just unraveling so quickly, and people were looking for answers. That's what I got from the things that I saw online. People were looking for answers, but weren't getting the answers that they were looking for.
And how could they get answers? They had a town hall, and then they canceled it 10 minutes before. That's when the students were outside shouting coward. Yeah, it's crazy the way that they've handled this.
That was the most shocking thing to me, because if you scheduled a town hall and then you back out of it on such short notice, that means some lawyer told you can't do this because you're going to be sued, and you don't want to be out there and saying anything that could be used against you. So that to me suggested that there's going to be heavy duty legal action about this closure. And that's really, really troubling on many, many levels, because of course it would be great if a school like Temple could just sort of absorb the university arts. But if they can't, and this school owns so much prime real estate, so many great buildings on Broad Street. If they're in bankruptcy or legal proceedings, that means nothing can be done with those buildings. And that could drag on for years. And this is the main street of Center City, you know, from virtually from City Hall to South Street. Just think how terrible it's going to be if all those buildings are mothballed for 5 or 6 years at this moment when we're just still trying to come out of the pandemic.
For sure. Speaking about lawsuits, by Wednesday, it was reported in the Inquirer that the University of Arts, some staff members filed a class action lawsuit over the closure. And so what I read and what has been reported is that the plaintiffs, which include some professors, department heads, administrators, they say, listen, the school violated a federal law that requires them to kind of give us 60 days notice of any change or plans for like a massive layoff. And because they announced its closure within a week, you know, the plaintiffs are looking for 2 months' pay, money to cover their accrued vacation time and health benefits. So, yes, I feel like we're definitely going to see more lawsuits possibly flying around. What do y'all think this signals for like how arts are being perceived right now in our city? Like arts are a part of Philly. It's a part of our culture. We have so many institutions, but I just feel like over a couple of years now, there's a shift happening.
Yeah, it occurs to me too that like this is happening at a time when we have a new mayoral administration who is deciding to underfund a lot of the arts around the city, underfund parks and recreation centers, which offer a lot of programming and a lot of free creative programming. Yeah, the arts are a huge part of what we are. I mean, and when I think about, you know, I tweeted this the other night, but like we're in the Northeast mega corridor, whatever that is, from DC to Boston. All of these cities have things that make them special. And I think the thing that makes Philly really special and stands us apart is our arts and culture. People come here every time we're written about nationally or internationally. Our murals are mentioned, our public art, our architecture, our streets, how walkable our city is, our parks, our food, our music, all of this is mentioned. And these things don't just happen, right? They need to be watered. They need to be fostered. They need to be seeded. Especially if you want people to come to the city and increase the tax base. And especially if you want to sort of, again, foster the people who live here. I grew up in Philly. I grew up in Fishtown. I'm so glad that I'm able to live in a city that has fostered my career in the arts. And I wish and I hope that can happen for more and more people.
Yeah. I will say, you know, I think the city's art scene is pretty resilient. And, you know, I've seen, you know, ups and downs over the years. And, you know, there's still more. There's still Tyler. PAFA still has a very vigorous program, even though they eliminated the degree program. There are museums, there are galleries, there are performance groups. And one thing I want to say about the University of the Arts, because, you know, they were probably mismanaged for a long time, they have a lot of great exhibition space that has been underutilized for decades. The Art Alliance, the Arts Bank, the Gershman Y, the Rosenfeld Galleries. They could have been doing so much more with those spaces. And I'm hoping, you know, Temple is the savior, and, you know, that they would program those spaces in a more vigorous way. Maybe that's a fantasy, but, you know, that could be a happy ending.
Well, we'll definitely keep our eyes on any other developments from this story. More news of the week after the break. Another story that just continues to be a debate in the city is where to put this intercity bus station. Inga, you wrote a column in the paper this week. And like you said, quote, finding a good site for a dignified and welcoming Philadelphia bus station shouldn't be so hard. But Inga, why has it been?
Let me start by saying, the city was in denial for a long time about Greyhound leaving its bus station. And Greyhound was on this month-to-month lease for years. And the city knew they were going to leave. And I think, had they been more interested in the subject, they would have said, oh, is this an opportunity to create, a high quality bus station, which is something people have been also talking about for years and years. But instead, it was just like, it wasn't immediately a problem, so they didn't deal with it. And then when it happened, they really hadn't thought things through, and they dumped them on Market Street and they dumped them on Spring Garden Street. And, I've talked to people who study inner city buses, and they say they've never seen such a chaotic response by a city.
Oh, man.
I think it speaks to a couple of things, even though everybody talks a good game about equity, et cetera. They really don't pay attention to these things. People who take buses are usually, people of lower income. So that's one thing. And they feel like it's a problem that can be solved by the private sector when there should be leadership by the city. And I think it also speaks to the attrition and the lack of capacity in the city planning department and streets department. They don't have enough people. And so, they're just doing triage all the time. And so that's what happened with the bus station.
Right.
You need an administration that's really committed to finding a solution and that is willing to devote the people, the staff to solving it.
Is it more, can I ask too, because I think you know a lot more about it than certainly I do. The vibe has been in the social media circles I see online is that the bus station moved because they're making plans basically to build out the 76ers arena right there. And they just had to get it out of the way. And that was their main priority, is to make space for that arena and then figure out the bus stuff later. Is that true?
That site, that bus station site, had been sold a couple of years earlier before the arena was proposed. And as I said, Greyhound was on this month-to-month lease. They were a tenant there. So that's one thing that happened. A second thing that happened was that Greyhound got sold to a German company, Flixbus. And when Flixbus bought Greyhound, they said, Greyhound owns a lot of valuable real estate in city downtowns. And they spun off all their real estate to a private equity firm and made some money that way. And then they looked around and they said, oh, look at all these other carriers like Megabus that are doing curbside pickup, and there's no overhead, right?
Right.
And so I think Flixbus wanted to compete with Megabus and the curbside carriers. They wanted to reduce their overhead. The business model is really cruel.
But please put bathrooms near the stations, though. That part was just driving me insane. And just seeing people you have to figure out where to go. You have to you're forced to buy things, or, you're forced to walk further away from your stop, and you don't want to miss your bus, but you're just looking for a bathroom, and like you said, the dignity part of it is just, it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, that's totally outrageous. And when the streets department moved the pickups to Spring Garden Street, initially there were no porta potties. It took several days to bring in the porta potties. I had an exchange on social media with a guy today who said, you never know where the buses are going to stop. He had to walk all the way over to Dave and Buster's.
That's far.
That's really, really far.
And it's across the highway, or a main busy road.
A big road.
Yeah.
So it's totally chaotic over there. There are three of those carriers now on Spring Garden. They block the bike lane. There are all these people arriving in Uber and Lyft who are jockeying between the buses. People are being picked up and dropped off. The Spring Garden station is not accessible. It doesn't have an elevator. That's problematic for a lot of people who can't do stairs. It's a terrible, terrible situation. I should say I've taken buses, not just all over America, but in some much less developed countries. Turkey. I've traveled by buses across Turkey and Russia. It was better there.
Okay, so in your column, you propose 6 places where the bus station could go. And what I loved about this is that you kind of like gamified it. You ranked them from 1 to 5 for amenities, proximity to highways and transit, traffic impact, and accessibility. And 5 being the best. One you have, which I think is my favorite, 30th Street Station,
Right.
which literally makes
Makes the
sense,
most sense.
which Megabus used to be there.
Right.
And do you guys remember Bolt Bus back in the
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were curbside pickups.
Right. But you had 30th Street Station where you could use the bathroom in dignity.
Right, right. I think, in a perfect world, there is this large deck just on the north side of the station, and that's where the buses could go. And I think it would be big enough for its own structure that would have a ticket counter, bathrooms, other things. But then it would be supplemented by all the amenities that exist in the train station.
Right.
Being able to go over to 30th Street Station, it's air conditioned. They have a place to sit. They're going to be really nice restaurants soon, and other things. So it makes a lot of sense to be there. I think that's one of my 2 top choices.
Inga, another option that you had that was top of your list was the 12th and Race parking lot.
They're both very good. And the reason I like 12th and Race is because, the other issue with bus stations is you don't want these buses trundling through the city for, long stretches. You want them to get on the highway, get off the highway, get out of here. And so the great thing about 12th and Race is it's really easy highway access to I-676. It's a big site. Again, they could build a structure with all the necessary amenities. And it's a walk to Jefferson Station, but not a long walk. It's under 2 blocks. So you have multiple transit lines. It's near Patco. So I think it's a pretty good candidate. It's certainly for a temporary bus station. Not quite as good as 30th Street, but almost as good.
Now, the one idea that you had on your list that it kind of blew my mind, and I never thought about this, but the former Philadelphia Police Administration building on 8th and Race Street.
Yeah, there's this, the city owns that block, and there's both the building and a very large parking lot behind it. That also has very good highway access.
Right.
I'm not really crazy about that site for a couple of reasons. It's a little further from the transit,
but it is close to the Broad Street extension line.
It's Ridge Avenue, the Ridge Avenue spur.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's also close to Jefferson Station.
Right.
It's not terrible.
But what kind of threw you off on that one?
I think it could be used better. I mean, a bus station is really important, but I think there are other options for the bus station that are more appropriate. And I would rather see this site heavily developed for housing. And it would help suture together like Old City and Chinatown and East Market. It would just fill in this gap that shouldn't be there.
And one of the lower scoring options was the Old City Welcome Garage on South 2nd Street.
Yeah, I understand why the city has latched onto that one, because it was designed for buses. So it has like 13 bays where they can park. They go in on 2nd Street, they come out on Front Street. It also has a vacant retail space, a former nightclub, I think, that has restrooms. So, it's all there. There's a couple downsides. One, as I mentioned about Spring Garden Street, there's a lot of pickups and drop-offs, and there's no off-street parking for those unless people pay to go in the garage. So that's problematic. And 2nd Street is already congested. Do we want to repeat all the chaos that we already have by having all these people come do pickups and drop-offs, like on the street while there's loading and buses? It will be a mess. Also on the Front Street side is where all the construction equipment is. for the new park cap that's being built to Penn's Landing. So the buses would exit on Front Street and they'd run straight into all these cranes and diggers and all these things. That seems problematic.
Oh, boy. Inga, we'll definitely keep our eyes out on this story as well for more developments. Okay, so I thought it would be a good idea to kind of wrap this conversation up with other strange things we've seen around Philly. Conrad, you've got to tell us about this story that you've been following, this Philly mystery, all about the cloud billboard in Old City.
Yes, yes, yes. For years, people have been Instagramming about this billboard. Basically, there's this tall, inordinately tall billboard in Old City. And it has three sides. Two sides face the bridge, the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, and the other side faces Old City. 2nd Street, when you're walking up and down, you can see it from a lot of locations. And it just has an image of a cloud on it. I think the first time I noticed it was about 2015. I mean, I'm sure I noticed it before then. But the first time I Instagrammed it and I said, hey, does anyone know why this is here? And no one really kind of knew. I think because the new condo was built across the street, this tall condo right on 2nd and, was that Arch Race?
Yeah, 205 Race.
Yeah, because that was built, I think there was just this general feeling that, oh, maybe the condo builder bought it and replaced it with, a cloud so that the residents wouldn't have to see an ad there. But it wasn't until pretty recently that the Billboard company came out and they explained it all. So basically, this billboard structure was built in 1986. It was built, according to them, with three sides because it was just determined that with the wind loads, with the bridge right there, and with how tall it was safer for it to be three sides. Okay, we'll take their word at that. But there's this very specific local law, 14-1604 line 7, that says no more than two sign facings or advertising messages shall be permitted on any one lot. So even though it has three sides, they can't have ads on all three sides. So from 1986, when the structure was built, until 2008 or 2009, it was, they say, left blank. I would love to see a photo of that because I'm curious. And then in 2009, someone at the Keystone sign company, this Keystone Billboard company, which I should say, I have a lot of feelings about billboards, but okay, we'll put that aside for now, is a local ad company. They had the idea to replace it with a stock image of a cloud. These are stock images. It's been replaced twice in its 13-year history, whatever the math is on that. Oh my God, 15 years. Wow.
So the clouds don't move.
They don't move. It's a still image of a cloud. It was one image for many, many years. And then when they replaced it with another stock image. But I did a big TikTok about it. People are very curious about this billboard.
Conrad, are you aware that the Billboard company sued the developer of 205 Race? Because when they built that building, they felt that the view of the billboards would be blocked.
Wow, I did not know that.
And they sued them and they came to some settlement. I had always thought that the cloud came out of that settlement, but maybe that's not the case. But
no, yeah, this would have been done years before that ever happened. Yeah.
But yeah, can you imagine? You can't build this apartment building because you're going to block a billboard.
But this is to circle the square. This is a fun story about a billboard not having an ad in it. And, the one hint I can give you is that it will continue not to have an ad in it. If Keystone does what they told me they do, I can't unfortunately say what it is, but something very fun will be happening with that billboard in the next year. And it'll be filled with something. It just won't be the cloud.
Oh, you're leaving us on the edge of our seat. All right. That was Conrad Benner, founder of Streets Department, curator at Mural Arts, and host of WHYY's Art Outside, and Inga Saffron, architecture columnist at the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Pulitzer Prize winning.
Y'all, this was such a fun episode. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I'll come back anytime.
It's time for the tip of the week, where we share a life hack for living in Philly. School's out for summer. This week, the Free Library kicked off its Summer of Wonder Challenge, and it's for everyone, not just the kids. You can attend programs at your neighborhood library, read new books, or try a new activity like writing a rhyming poem or a tongue twister, or how about even making a completely new story, but use characters from your favorite book or movie. Make sure to log all of your summer activities And if you want more information on the library's Summer of Wonder running until Friday, August 9th, check out the link in our show notes. If you have a tip of the week, we love to hear from you too. Call or text us at 215-259-8170. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Whew, what a week, y'all. Our producers are Abby Fritz and Lizzie Goldsmith. Our Hey Philly newsletter editors are Asha Prahar and Italia Aldana. And our host is me, Trenae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from All the Kimonos and James Weldon. If you enjoyed this week of episodes, please tell a friend, tell your neighbor, tell your barista at the coffee shop. Leave us a review and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend and be safe, y'all. Bye.